Hi, all. DT Neal. Still thinking about science fiction and the transport of plants and animals to other colonies. Like I said, this is one of those things. This is what science fiction is so good about, in that it allows for the real philosophical exploration of these ideas. And there's yet another element, in addition to everything I've already spoken about, which is when you are, and I'm not advocating anything on this. I'm just openly speaking about it. But there is this idea of like you're transporting yourself to a colony. How much of old Earth do you bring with you to the new colony? Or do you just embrace the new? Now, of course, we have certain biological requirements in terms of food and the like. So life as we know it, that saying, that idea. What do we bring with us versus becoming acclimated to the new life on this new world? And we had, even when you think back into this planet, the colonial era, when you had Europeans in the New World, right? And Africa and Polynesia and areas in Australia and places like that. Like you had that discord, that disjunction of, and the awareness that life in those new places didn't one-to-one parallel life in whatever the source countries were. And there's so many examples of it. I'm not even going to go into those, but there was that very real sense that like what you brought with you may or may not help you in the new world, in this new world. Certain crops that might grow great back home don't grow so well in the new world. There are new animals and new things that you can encounter. Now, right now we have this issue where a lot of people think, well, are we alone in the universe? Is there anything else, or is this just us? And which I think, again, seems statistically impossible to embrace as an idea. I think there has to be tons of life out there. It's just we are remote from each other. And that's part of the thing, too. So you could take somebody, hypothetically, again, hypothetical colony, hypothetical ability to transport legacy species to a new world successfully, however it's done. Then you have an issue where a horse on Mars in short order is going to be different than a horse from Earth. Even native born, we bring them over, it will take a few generations, again, assuming fully successful transport. With the lower gravity and the different conditions, the horses are going to look different. People are going to look different very quickly because of even simple stuff like gravity. And the historic role horses played in their ability to haul, things and transport people, that might start to shift because they're going to be probably these long-legged, comparatively weaker species compared to the robust Earth stock. And there becomes issues about that. Now that's only looking at a low gravity place. You could go to a higher gravity place and have a whole pile of other issues. And so the mechanics of it become operationally unwieldy very, very quickly. There's the transport, there's the food, there's the climate, there's these conditions, there's the role of the introduced species. It's all fun and games when you have like these greenhouses under domes and you have like plants growing and people are pulling space carrots from their trellises or whatever they're doing. Hydroponic gardens and all that kind of thing. But the minute you throw animal life into it, it gets very, very strange, very, very quickly. I mean, birds, something as basic as birds. People are going to want to bring birds. And how did that work out for the birds? How do the poor birds work when they're like flying around in low G and they're like, whoa, or they're growing quickly? I mean, space rats. Are people going to bring rats? Are they going to want to bring rats along? I mean, I'm not counting like people with their pet rats, but I'm just like rats in general. Mice. Do they get to go? Squirrels? Like owls? Eagles? Where do you draw those lines? And how quickly would that be, depending on the life cycle of a particular animal, before very quickly they become a new species? I mean, we've seen it on this planet where you might have something where there's a mainland species that migrates somehow to an island, and then in short order they become diversified into a different species, and that applies to humans too. Will a Martian take a few generations out? Somebody who lives on Mars, they are going to look categorically different from Earthlings pretty quickly. As they adapt to that life on those new, and that's just a very easy one by just picking Mars. But there's, you go to further and further out, and the light gets harder to come by, and it's colder, and it's a more harsh climate. And then you think about, well, how far out are you going to transport those animal and plant species? How far do we stretch that before it becomes cost prohibitive, unwieldy? And perhaps, some of those things, like, again, even something as basic as a plant, you go out, far enough, and you're going to absolutely need grow lamps of some sort, because the plants aren't going to be able to thrive. They're going to be like, not enough sunlight. All of that stuff, it's not necessarily fun or romantic or exciting stuff, but it does matter in terms of science fiction thought, and it does matter in terms of us, how we think of ourselves as stewards and caretakers of the earth, or just conquerors of the earth, or colonists. Even something as seemingly, like, even on this planet, we think about colonizing and colonialism, right, as fraught. It's all fun and games, speaking very loosely, from the perspective of those sending out the colonies. But once you have colonists established, things start to change very quickly. The distances involved, like, it's impossible to think about a political form of organization in a new colony that has anything more than like a bit of a gimlet eye at the home planet. I mean, that comes pretty easily. You think the Boston Tea Party was a big deal because they had a little tariff on tea, and they went berserk. Think about a colonial enterprise on the moon or Mars or beyond, where, the Earth planet home world is saying, yeah, we're going to have to raise the price on that oatmeal that we have to fly out to you, that gruel, because it's just too expensive. We had to bring a bunch of horses, and it was just, sorry. And how will people react to that? It's a lot there. Even if we get to that point, there is a lot to think about and a lot to consider in terms of our mode of operating as a species, as a civilization, and how we interact with all those other things that are here on this planet with us. Who gets to go, who doesn't get to go, and why, and what do we do to make that possible, and why and how. So there's a lot to be mined in that.